All right, so in this video, we're going to be talking all about how to test and optimize real estate lead generation campaigns. If you watched the previous two videos that I put out, you will know exactly how to set up and create these campaigns from scratch and literally have everything that you need to launch highly optimized, highly profitable seller lead generation campaigns. But the biggest thing that everyone needs help with, or that everyone has questions about once you've got these campaigns up and running, is what do you do if it doesn't work? How do you optimize them? How do you maintain these campaigns over a long time period? What do you do if results start to drop off? What do you do if it's not profitable? And so we're going to be showing you how to actually maintain, manage, and run these campaigns. The reason that media buyers exist, the reason that marketing agencies exist, is because these types of campaigns are not a set and forget strategy whatsoever. There is work that needs to be done on the back end to test different creatives, test different ad copy angles, test different audiences, maintain these campaigns on an ongoing basis that can literally make or break if this system is going to work for you. If you think you're just going to set this up once and you never have to think about it again and it's just going to run for you in the background, that is not the case whatsoever. I've seen a lot of different people in the real estate marketing space kind of sell this idea and sell this dream that there's these just on autopilot set and forget real estate lead generation strategies. That does not exist whatsoever. And like I said, that's why marketing agencies exist in the first place. Like all of our done for you clients at our marketing agency have a dedicated digital strategist that we're checking in on their campaigns literally on a daily basis, making changes to the ads so that they're performing well. So what are we going to be covering in today's training? Also as well, this is the first video I'm filming in the new office. Just moved into a new building at the start of last week as well, which is cool. So you'll be seeing a lot more videos in this space. I'm excited to deck it out and make it look cool. So we're going to be, obviously the goal initially is to turn every dollar that we spend in ad spend into $8 to $15 in commissions. We've already touched on that, but that is the goal at the end of the day. 2 is know the winning ingredients to high converting seller lead generation ads. And so one of the reasons that I've been successful in the real estate marketing space and that most people aren't successful is because they're always 2 or 3 steps behind everyone else. So many people in the real estate industry and in the marketing industry are just straight up lazy and don't want to make the effort to really learn the skill and get good at marketing. And so they end up just copying the next person, which results in you always being behind the curve and always needing your competition in order to be competitive. And so if all you're ever doing is, copying the script from your competitor, copying the ads from your competitor, copying the signboard from your competitor, copying how they do their letterbox drops, then you need your competitor, you rely on them. But what you should be doing is genuinely learning the skill of marketing and knowing what the winning ingredients are so that you can play with those ingredients. And it's like becoming a master chef. At first, you follow someone else's cookbook and you follow someone else's list of ingredients. And then as you get better, as you test your own things, you start to experiment, you start to test your different combination of a different recipe, and you come up with your own unique solution. And that's the point that we've gotten to, where I've been marketing in the real estate industry for like 6, almost 7 years now, where we have developed a lot of the creatives that right now most of Australia that are advertising on social media are copying. And we're able to do that not because we're geniuses, but because we know the winning ingredients that go into ads, and we can just play with those ingredients, make variations of them, and we're able to always be ahead of the curve. So that's what I want for you. I don't want you to just always have to rely on people like me putting out training, but you need to genuinely learn the skills that you have longevity in this space, and you can come up with a strategy and always be ahead of the curve. Next, we're just going to be recapping on understanding your KPIs and cost per lead benchmarks. You need to know what is a good result and what's a bad result so that you can make scaling decisions and so that you can know if you need to optimize something or not. Because sometimes you think that a campaign's performing badly, but it's actually performing fine. You just haven't let it run for long enough and it doesn't have enough ad spend on it, and you just need to leave it and let it collect some data, and then you can make a decision. You need to know what those benchmarks are so that you're reading the numbers correctly. We touched on that a little bit, but I'm just going to be covering it in a little bit of a different context in this video. Next is knowing exactly how to troubleshoot for lead quality and how to troubleshoot for lead cost. So those are 2 different things, and it depends on your strategy and what your objective is of these campaigns. So let's dive right into it. So first of all, what are the winning ingredients? So in any advertising, and a lot of what I'm going to touch on first, like a lot of these videos, I'm going to cover some more foundational theoretical training around lead generation as a whole, which honestly applies to most local business lead gen niches or B2B lead generation industries. And so being familiar with these concepts are essential to understanding the strategy for how we get results in the real estate niche. So first of all, think of these winning ingredients. These variables are essentially just like the levers that you have the option to pull to figure out how to make these campaigns work. We've given you a huge amount of the proven strategy so that you can just copy and paste it, but the only things that you have control over in the long term are pulling these levers in a different way. And if I could sum everything up in terms of how to optimize lead generation campaigns with paid ads, is it literally just comes down to doing more of what's working and doing less of what's not working. You know, when we first launched a campaign, we set up all these different variations. We set up like 6 different ad copy variations. We set up 6 different creative variations. We launch in, 3 to 5 different suburbs and locations. And we're just throwing a bunch of things out there based on what we know works and seeing, okay, which version of all these things performs best. Maybe it's this suburb, this creative, and this ad copy. And we just do less of what's not working and stop spending money on the things that aren't working. And we do more of what is working and make variations of the winning things. So these different variables are your messaging and angle. So this is like the highest level variable of your campaign, and this is kind of like I put here, the specific focus or proposition used in advertising content to attract potential sellers, attract potential clients. And so this is just like the macro thing that you're calling out, or the macro call to action that they're including in your ads. And in context to real estate, like I put here, there's only 2 messaging angles that can be used to attract sellers. We've got either homeowners want to know how much their home is worth, which is your free valuation, or they want to know how to increase its value. At the end of the day, these are the only 2 ways that we can generate an inquiry from a seller with direct response lead generation campaigns. Yes, there's a lot of other things you can do with branding, growing a personal brand, but we're talking about paid ads, lead generation. This is what works best. And so what you are going to have to do is some variation of those 2 core ad angles. No one is going to come up with, there's no other strategies that exist out there, because those are the fundamental core motivations of homeowners. It would be like trying to, create a different, I don't even know a good example off the top of my head, but these are just like the fundamental core motivations of any homeowner. And so there's never going to be anything fundamentally different that gets done outside of those. We're just innovating on these existing core strategies. And so there's many different versions of ways to promote a free home valuation. There's many different versions of ways to promote a free lead magnet that's going to teach someone how to increase the value of their property. We can do that in the format of video sales letters, which is something that we do, and give away a 15-20 minute free training. You can do that with ebooks. You can do that with free content on a YouTube channel. You can do that in lots and lots and lots of different ways. Next, we've got our ad copy, which is just the text or the caption that is included on your paid ad. Obviously, that is a piece of content inside of the ad, and which is a variable that we can test. And there's lots of things that we can do to test different versions of that to see if we can get down the lead cost. Next is our creative, which is the still image or the video ad that we're including in our ad. And then the audience is who we're showing the ad to. Obviously, I'm going to get into how we can pull these levers to optimize campaigns and how you should focus on that decision making. But those are the only 4 things that we have control over at the end of the day. Either we can change the overarching angle that we're messaging. For example, home valuations is usually an ad angle that's relevant to most homeowners and most sellers, which will get you the cheapest leads. Doing more of a free value giveaway, where we're teaching homeowners how they can increase the value of their property, either with an ebook or like a free training over video. That is a higher intent call to action, because someone is only interested in that, and it's only relevant to them if they are closer to the decision-making stage of actively looking at selling their property. And so if, say for example, we have a lead quality issue and your cost per lead is very cheap in your market, then maybe we might say, okay, let's start spending more money on a how to increase the value of your home type strategy, because that's going to attract more motivated sellers. That's one way that you can look at it. Cool. So as I put down here, I've said, therefore, the only thing that you can do as an agent, all we can do as marketers is innovate based on the above variables: ad copy, creative, and audience targeting. So the lead spectrum is a strategy and a framework that if you genuinely understand it and apply it to your marketing and sales process, it's going to make it extremely simple and easy to crush your competition. And not understanding this is often one of the main reasons why you're really struggling to scale up your marketing and sales process. So all the lead spectrum is about breaking down the different stages that people are at in the buying cycle and the buying journey, so that you can understand who to market to and when. So problem unaware people, and I'm just going to explain this in the context of the real estate sales cycle for acquiring sellers. A problem unaware person is someone that doesn't have a problem with regards to selling their property. They are someone that has zero intent to sell their property. They don't even care necessarily what it's worth right now. It's not even on their radar whatsoever. Therefore, they would never be someone that we'd want to market to or get into a sales conversation with, because they don't have a problem to solve. In the context of, how we would apply this to our situation, our real estate marketing agency, a problem unaware person would be someone that is a experienced real estate professional that has more business that they can handle just simply off the back of referrals, their existing network, their reputation, and they don't have a problem whatsoever for scaling up lead generation and booking more on-site appraisals. Therefore, it would never make sense for them to be interested in our service in the first place. So they don't even have a need for our service whatsoever. Problem aware people, which is the next one, are people that are simply aware that they have a problem, but they don't know what the solution is. So in context of the real estate industry, this is a little bit more nuanced, because most people are aware that the way that they can sell their house is by using a real estate professional to sell their house. If they have a reason to sell, they know that the solution is to sell, but maybe they have a unique problem they're not sure if there's a solution to. Potentially they want to sell, they want to capitalize on the current market, but maybe they have some limiting beliefs or have some concerns or unique issues that are holding them back from selling. For example, maybe they want to take advantage of the current market, but they don't want to buy in to an equally expensive property and just ending up in the same situation anyway. Or maybe they don't know where they're going to move to. Maybe they don't know how they can find another place. They have a problem. They know they want to sell, but they don't know what the solution is so that they can sell. Solution aware people, they know they've got a problem and they know what the solution is. They know that they need to work with an agent that can help them based on their current situation, but they don't know exactly what the service is that can help them with that. Say, for example, again, to put it in context to our business, solution aware people would be real estate professionals that they know that they've got a problem. They know that they need to be doing more business. They know that they need to be scaling up more and acquiring more listings. Solution aware, the solution is we need more leads. Okay, we need more conversations. We need to be growing our pipeline. We need to be getting our name out there more. Solution aware means we need more leads, but maybe you don't know that there's specific services out there that you can pay for that can help you solve that lead generation problem. That would be a simply solution aware, is just knowing what the general category of things that's out there that can solve their problem. Service aware people, they know they've got a problem. They know they need to sell their house. They know that there's people out there that can help them with their unique needs. And they know that there's specific services out there that can solve the problem that they have. Again, this would be the equivalent of a real estate professional that they know they've got a problem. They need to be selling more houses. They know that they need to be generating more leads and starting more conversations and getting their name out there more. And they know that there's marketing agency services out there that can help them solve that problem. And these are the type of people that are, say, homeowners actively looking at other real estate agents to work with as well. They're looking and they're comparing services. Then you aware is some of the most qualified leads out there. These would be people that are probably already in your pipeline. They already know about you and they're already considering working with you as an agent. Or if we're a marketing agency, it would be a real estate professional that is actively seeking and speaking and doing their research with other marketing agencies. And then the very last step is obviously a sale and a converted customer. So that is the lead spectrum. And so why is this so important? Because how we market to different people depends on which stage they're at in the lead spectrum. And this is even more important in the real estate industry because of this diagram that is obviously very, very well drawn down below, which I will explain right now. So because the real estate industry is long-term in nature, meaning that most people selling their houses is one of their biggest investment. There's a lot of logistics that goes into it. There's a lot of consideration that goes into it. Like I explained in the previous video, it's not the same as running an ad for a gym and selling a gym membership where someone can sign up on the spot. Someone selling their house is a huge commitment and there's a lot of implications that goes along with that. On top of that, it's usually about 5 to 10% of a given real estate market that actually transacts at all within a 12-month time frame. Therefore, when we're running ads on social media, we're showing ads to 100% of homeowners in your market, whereas only 5 to 10% of those are actually going to transact within 12 months in general. And so if you're spending the minimum that we recommend spending, $7.50 per month on ads, and you're getting, say, a $15 cost per lead, you're getting 40 to 50 leads coming in every single month. And there's only possibly going to be 5 to 10% of those people that are going to transact within 12 months in total. And therefore, in the early stages of implementing this system, it's an even smaller percentage of those leads that are going to transact with it and are going to be short range sellers. This is why so many real estate professionals fail with social media marketing, because the perspective, the expectations that you have of the role that this plays in your business is completely out of whack, and there's not a long-term approach being applied to the sales process on the back end. This is why we preach the concept of becoming someone's agent before they need one, because all of the rookie agents, all of the inexperienced agents are only prospecting people that want to sell right now. And the reason that that is the worst idea is because that's the smallest pool of potential clients, because out of an entire real estate market, everything that's in red are people that aren't even going to sell at all within 12 months. This little green circle are people that are going to sell within 12 months. And the circle of people that are looking to sell within the next 1 to 3 months would be an even smaller fraction of that. And so if you're only ever focusing your prospecting efforts and, conducting on-site appraisals and shaking hands and building relationships with people that are short-range sellers, you're only focusing your prospecting efforts on the smallest pool of potential clients that are also the most competitive, because all of those people are actively speaking to other agents, and these are all people that are in the service aware and the you aware stage. And so they are the hardest listings to acquire, whereas the easiest listings to acquire are the people that are 6 to 12 months out in this green circle, and they're starting to get curious about what the market's doing. They're starting to get curious about what they could possibly sell for. They're in those earlier stages, and they just need an agent to start to build a relationship with that can start to add value to them and guide them through that process. Because that's why if you become someone's agent before they need one, you're the one that gets your foot in the door, you're the one that provides value first, you're just ridiculously exponentially more likely to acquire that listing at the end of the day. And because it's a long-term sales cycle anyway, all of your listings, the vast majority of your listings, are going to come from these people that you've built relationships with first in the early stages. That's why there's the majority of the old school agents out there, most of their business comes off the back of their existing database, repeat business, referrals, because it's a long-term sales cycle. You've been doing it for a long time. You've built up a big database, and all of the people that are coming to you are just from the long-term efforts of you being in the business for a very long time and doing good work. And so if you expect that with social media marketing, you're just going to generate some leads and you're just going to convert, short-range sellers straight off the back, then you're shooting yourself foot in the first place because you've got the wrong expectations. And so next thing that we wanted to touch on is break down this correlation between lead quality. Let me see if it's going to let me make this a little bit smaller. Yeah, cool. Lead quality and friction. So let's say, for example, you're following my strategy. Let's get this right. And your lead quality sucks. What do? So there is a direct correlation between how qualified a lead is and how quality that lead is, and how much friction we apply for considering that a converted lead. And so this is just exactly how you can think through increasing the quality of the leads for your own campaigns or your clients' campaigns. Just think about it like that. The more friction that we apply for a lead to convert, the more quality that lead is going to be. The more hoops that you make someone jump through, that implies an increased degree of intent. Okay, let's break this down. So the lowest quality lead that we've got here, which is on the coldest side, there's the least amount of friction and the least amount of quality, is what we would consider a basic lead. This would be someone that is just literally all they've given us is their name, phone number, and email, and that's like a basic Facebook lead form where their contact details are just automatically inputted. That's like the least form of a lead, because on a Facebook lead form, it's the least amount of friction for someone to give their information. They don't have to manually type their information. They don't have to put in their first and last name. They don't have to put in their email. They just have to click a button, confirm their details are correct, click a button, and they've converted. That's why Facebook lead forms can sometimes be not the greatest quality, because there's just so much little friction for that lead to convert. And then if you've removed any other questions that need to be answered as well, then they didn't have to enter anything manually, and that lead cost, the lead quality is obviously lower. Then we go up a little bit further, we add a little bit more friction. We can call this a room temp lead or a warmer lead. So these are the types of leads that we're generating on the front end of our seller lead generation campaigns, because we're still running Facebook lead forms, but we're asking a few more questions. Homeowner has to provide their property address, so they have to manually type that in. That's a little bit more friction. Then we ask them an additional question, which is usually, how soon are you looking to sell? This is like a higher intent, higher friction question where we give them 4 to 6 multiple choice responses, where they say, I'm looking to sell now, 1 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months, 12 months plus, or not thinking of selling. That is obviously a little bit more friction because there's 2 additional questions that they have to answer where they have to manually input that information. That is a warmer lead. Then we move up, we're adding more friction, we're adding more quality. We would consider this an application. So if you have a landing page where someone has to fill out an application, they have to answer anywhere between like 5 to 8 questions to move on to the next step. This is usually the step before an appointment. The way that we have had this on our funnel before for real estate professionals looking to work with us, we just have like an apply now button on our main video sales letter funnel, and we ask about like 12 questions all the way, just a bunch of different questions that are relevant to find out the information if someone is your ideal client or not. That is all an application is. And so you could either do this directly in a Facebook lead form, just ask a bunch of questions, or you could have a landing page where you have an application where a homeowner has to fill out all of these questions to be considered for, the next step of your sales process, whether or not that's like a one-on-one consultation, whatever that is. Then the kind of hottest version of a lead or a prospect or a sales opportunity is an appointment scheduled. So if you have someone go through all of these hoops and schedule in an appointment on their own accord without any human interaction or any human input, then that is just about the hottest quality lead that you can get. And so we generate these by having a calendar booking system on the video sales letter funnel that we set up for our clients, where they first saw one of our ads, they filled out their information, then we sent them through to a landing page where they watch a 15 to 20 minute video, then they schedule in for an appointment where they have to, the intent is so much higher there and there's a fair bit of friction there. They've already had to fill out their information, they've already had to watch a video, then they have to go onto a calendar, select a time, figure out what's going to work for them. They're obviously committing to an in-person, scheduled meeting, which there's a lot of intent there for. They have to refill out their details again. They have to confirm that. There's a lot more steps there. And so if you're ever struggling with lead quality, you just want to try things that are slightly adding friction one step at a time. So usually what we do is we just simply change the questions on the Facebook lead form, and that's the very first thing that we do. Or we can look at adding an application on the back end of the funnel if not enough people are scheduling in for an on-site appraisal, or if you're just not even giving people the option to book in for an on-site appraisal, then you can add that. A lot of what optimizing for lead quality in the real estate niche is about is more about qualifying leads on the back end, as opposed to only generating quality leads on the front end, because the sales cycle is long-term in nature and the majority of sales that you acquire at the end of the day is from the long-term database nurturing. Then you never want to miss out on growing your database as much as possible, because if you're getting, say, $12 leads on appraisal inquiries and most of the leads are low quality, that's implied anyway. And so if you make changes where all of a sudden you're getting $35, $40 leads, however, and the leads are high quality, you're missing out on 20 to 30 leads every single month minimum that you could be adding to your database and growing that, where those people could be getting hit with your email newsletter, they could be getting your updates over text, they could be getting your retargeting ads, and you're missing out on all of that long-term growth. Whereas we can still be generating those quality leads by just qualifying them out in the back end by giving those people an option to schedule an appointment, and the warmest leads will just rise to the top, or by qualifying leads better on the back end with SMS and email follow-up, or with our appointment setting strategy. Cool. So just to recap on our cost per lead benchmarks, a high competition location, your cost per lead should be anywhere between $20 to $40. A low competition location should be anywhere between $8 to $15, and I'll break down why and the variables that impact if your area should be low or high competition, because I get this question a lot from real estate professionals, and they ask, why would results be different in my area? And I'll tell you exactly why. There's lots of different variables at play. Also, I forgot to mention this Google Doc as well is going to be linked in the description. There's going to be no opt-in for it, no email or anything. You'll just be able to click the link below in my description and just open up directly as Google Doc if you want to check out any of the notes and content on this page. So the variables that affect cost per lead, These are all things that are outside of our control. So the first one is increased competition. So these are the factors that contribute to whether or not your location and your market or your client's market is going to be a high competition area or a low competition area. And this matters and it's important because if you don't have that context going into launching the campaigns, then your expectations are going to be out of whack in terms of how quickly you should be taking action on optimizing the campaigns. For example, if we launched campaigns for a client that we know is in a low competition area, but they were getting a $40 cost per lead straight out of the gate in the first couple of days of running ads, then that would be very concerning to us and we'd want to pause ads and test something differently very, very quickly. Whereas if we were launching ads in a high competition area and they were getting $40 cost per lead straight out of the gate, then that would actually be very good because we'd be like, okay, cool, like we're already getting some leads coming in and we already know that it's going to be harder to get leads in this area. So first of all, we've got increased competition. So locations that are more saturated with other real estate agents or agencies are harder to get results in. That's simply just because more competition equals more people running ads in the same market. And this drives up ad costs. Social media advertising is like an auction type of marketplace. The more people competing for the same screen real estate, the more the cost to advertise goes up. So it's the same as if you had more people showing up to an auction to sell a property. By default, the more people that are showing up to the auction, the more demand there is, the more bids there's going to be, the higher the property is going to sell for. It's the same thing with social media. The more people that are bidding in the same area, in the same market, for the same audience, for the same category and the types of ads, the more expensive it is to advertise, also because it saturates the strategies in the same market. You know, if there's 10 other individual real estate agents running appraisal inquiry ads in an individual suburb, then people are getting that coming up on their feed over and over again, which means that that general call to action is being saturated a lot more and you have to be more innovative with the types of creatives that you're running. Cool. Property value. So the more expensive the property value is in a market, the more expensive it will be to generate leads in that market due to demographics of the type of people that we're advertising to and other factors. So usually locations that have a higher property value, usually they're smaller geographical areas to begin with because they're more exclusive and therefore you're just working with a smaller audience size. If you're trying to target a smaller audience size, it's going to be more expensive to advertise because you can just think about like a direct correlation between a Facebook audience. The more specific of an audience that you're trying to reach, the more you're going to have to pay to reach that more specific audience. Usually as well, the demographics of people that correlate that are living in higher property value locations, Facebook charges you more to reach those people because more people are advertising to those types of people as well in a bunch of other different industries. Again, another reason that those markets are more expensive to advertise in is because there's usually just lower population density as well to begin with. By default, markets that have a lower than average property value, the properties are often lower in value, not just because of location, but also because of the size of the properties and the size of the land and the size of the lots and everything like that. And so you're just working with more people in that same area to advertise to in the first place. Therefore, more people are going to inquire. Therefore, the lead cost comes down. Annual turnover is looking at what percentage of properties historically transact within that market or within that location. Again, these are things that are outside of our control and it's not something that we're like meticulously analyzing, but it's just a data point to give us context and know if it's going to be more or less expensive to advertise. So if we're in an area and our client is telling us, yeah, this location has a much higher turnover rate than this other location, then we're going to recommend advertising to the high turnover rate area because naturally, the more properties that sell within a 12-month time frame by default means that there's more homeowners who are interested in appraisal and therefore the campaigns are going to generate more inquiries. If there's more homeowners in that market that transact within 12 months, more people are going to be interested in what their home is worth, more people are going to respond to the ads. That's pretty straightforward. Lastly is our macro market sentiment. So the macro market conditions obviously impact the turnover rate as well as conversion rate of the leads. The macro market sentiment can make it even cheaper to generate leads sometimes. So say for example, right now, we're getting very, very cheap leads for our clients. For example, this client right here, we're getting a $9.63 cost per lead we've generated 240 seller inquiries and we've spent $2,300. Another client here, $10.55, we generated 277 leads, we've spent $2,400. That in any market is an insanely cheap cost per lead. However, with the macro sentiment and the way that the market is right now, people aren't selling as frequently. And so we might be getting a lot of cheap leads, but the leads are converting at a lower rate on the back end. Therefore, we're less profitable than we would usually be in a more hot market. For example, most of our clients like in the middle of the COVID madness in most Western markets around the world, the real estate market was going absolutely crazy. Homes were easy to sell. It was easy to acquire listings. Everyone wanted to sell their property, and that's like probably the main period that our clients have been getting our clients were getting the best results and getting the craziest ROI, just because the market was hot, and obviously no one can control the macro sentiment. And so whatever the macro sentiment is at the time may affect your cost per lead, but it also might just affect the conversion rate of the leads that you're generating, meaning that you have to put that into context of what ROI you're expecting to get from your campaigns. Cool. Okay, so now we're getting into the more nitty gritty, just like practical strategy of how you optimize the seller lead generation campaigns that we've showed you how to set up in the previous video. So I've just broken it down into 4 phases, and I made this as simple as possible so that you can just follow this and know these are like, I always like to follow the 80-20 rule. These suggestions are just like the 20% that's going to get you 80% of the results. If you're running your own campaigns as a real estate professional, you're never going to get to the level of expertise that a media buyer is going to be able to do, because that's their entire job, that's their entire responsibility, and all they're doing on a daily basis is just in the back end of Facebook Ads Manager, knowing this stuff inside and out. And so there's no point you trying to become a Facebook Ads expert, but knowing the basics and knowing this stuff is going to get you 80% of the way there, which is more than enough that you need, especially if you're an individual agent running your own ads. If you're a marketer, then you can obviously get in the trenches a little bit more and go down some more rabbit holes. But phase 1, so these phases are kind of like in chronological order of what you would do to optimize a campaign in order, depending on what's happened. So phase 1 is like the first $200 to $400 of ad spend. So our goal is to have at least one ad or one ad set producing a cost per lead within KPI that has the potential to optimize. So around that first $200 to $400 in ad spend mark, we want to be at least seeing that there's even just one ad within our entire campaign that's producing a cost per lead within KPI, and within KPI is within these brackets of cost per lead. All we should be doing here is turning off underperforming creatives / ad sets. If we aren't getting a sustainable cost per lead, then duplicate winning ad angles and change them slightly. So within your first $200 to $400 of ad spend, all you really need to be doing is just turning off what's not working and then letting it optimize and seeing how it does from there. Because again, the only thing that we can make decisions off with Facebook and Instagram campaigns is data. And the less data that you have, the less accurate decision making is. The more data you have, the more accurate your decision making is. And if you're trying to optimize campaigns after you've only spent $50, $100, $200, then you're just not working with enough data to make a meaningful and intelligent decision. And so we would only be looking at making significant changes after about like that $300 to $400, $300 to $400 mark of ad spend. Cool. Phase 2 is the entire campaign should be producing leads within KPI or strongly trending towards this. So I should probably break down before moving on to this is what do I mean by duplicate winning ad angles and change them slightly. So let's take, for example, this campaign right here. So this is the best performing. We always want to look where the most amount of data is. So we can see this ad set for this suburb has produced the majority of the leads for the cheapest cost per lead in the entire campaign. And then we can see, okay, cool. This creative right here has produced the majority of leads within this campaign. So what we would do is we would look at, okay, what is the easiest, simplest variable that we can change about this creative? Well, that would be the aerial image in the background. We could change the image completely. We could make it an image of a previously sold property. We could make it a different aerial image of a different section of that suburb. We could make it a Google Maps screenshot in the background. We could make it a Google Maps screenshot with the streets view or the satellite view. There's all of these different things that we could change about the background, which is just a slight adjustment of that creative variation that we know is winning, and we can make that go further and we can optimize it. So that's all I'm talking about there. Phase 2, the entire campaign should be producing leads within KPI or strongly trending towards this. So one thing that's important to look at when we're optimizing these campaigns is paying attention to the time frame that we're looking at the data on, because the way that a campaign shows you results is based on the time frame that we set it to. So we can see during the maximum duration of this campaign, the lifetime cost per lead has been $8.57. But if I change this to, say, just today, we can see it hasn't generated any leads. Or if I make this yesterday, it hasn't generated any leads either. If I make this the past 7 days, the total cost per lead has actually been $16.99. Okay, which is very different than what the total cost per lead is. So we usually want to be looking at the cost per lead in the past 7 days and in the past 30 days, because that gives us the most accurate read of what the true cost per lead is. So we can see that in the past 30 days, this campaign is getting an $11.98 cost per lead, which is a little bit above what the lifetime value cost per lead is. And so you might have had a campaign that was bringing in a great cost per lead for the past 2 months, but it might start really increasing in the past 1 to 2 weeks, which means that the ad is starting to fatigue and something needs to be done about it. Okay. And so, or you might have a campaign that has been performing really poorly for the first 2 weeks, but then it started to perform really well for the first, for this, say the third week of the campaign that you're running. But because the results were really bad in the first 2 weeks, if you're looking at the campaign data for the full 3 weeks you've been running the campaigns, the cost per lead might look really bad, but it's actually gotten really better in the past 7 days. You might have an $8 cost per lead in the past 7 days, but a $24 cost per lead for the lifetime of the campaign. And you might be thinking that that's not that great, but it's actually trending really well towards performing within KPI. So that's really, really important to pay attention to. If there's no ads or ad sets producing leads within KPI, we relaunch the campaign and test all new creatives that haven't been tested. And so, like I put here, this is why we always want to have at least 6 to 8 winning creative templates at any point. Because when we launch for any client, we have 3 creatives in 3 different suburbs. If the first 3 don't work, then test the next 3, and we usually find a winner after doing that. And so, based on the training for the previous video, the way that we launch our campaigns is we have at least 3 suburbs, markets, locations, however you call it in your part of the world. And then within each of those different audiences that we're targeting, we're going to have 3 different creative variations that have been customized to call out those different locations, like you can see here. So we've got the same style of ads in each of these different ad sets, but all of these ads have been customized to call out that specific location. So in the ad, we're calling out that suburb. In the text, we're calling out that suburb, so on and so forth. And so we've always got at least an additional 3 to 5 other creative variations that we can test in the campaigns. So if we've gone through the motions of doing our phase 1, we've launched, we've tested some different variations of the best performing ads and they aren't working, then we just relaunch the entire campaign with 3 completely different creative variations that are our current best performing winning ones within all the ads that we're running for our clients, but we just haven't tested them for that client yet, and see how that goes. If that still doesn't work and we're still not optimizing towards KPI, then we move on to phase 3, which is simply testing different suburbs and repeating phase 1 and 2. So one of the biggest variables that can impact campaign results, which are obviously outside of our control, is just simply the location that we're targeting. And this is something that I've learned after spending, like I say all the time, millions of dollars on these campaigns. And for whatever reason, the market conditions, literally just between neighboring suburbs, places that can be, literally just the suburb and the location over, can produce a dramatically cheaper cost per lead. And we can see this in, just these campaigns that we've got up right now. We can see right here, we've got a $8 cost per lead in one suburb, and we've got a $22 cost per lead in the other suburb. Let's just have a look at how far away these places are geographically. So we've got Lamb Island here, and we've got Russell Island here. So these are literally just like, I don't even know how far that is, but it's not far. These are just like right next to each other. And we're getting, more than 100% difference in what the cost per lead is. And so instead of spinning our wheels, trying to just test endless different creative variations, literally just testing a different suburb can make or break the campaigns and can be an insanely different result. So phase 3 is essentially our plan C. If we're really struggling to get results in the initial 3 suburbs that we're wanting to generate leads in, sometimes the suburb that we're advertising in is simply a very tricky / expensive location to advertise in, and there are factors outside of our control that make the market undesirable to market to. This is why instead of wasting more money more money, more ad spend, and spinning our wheels, we test different suburbs / markets for our clients early on in our campaigns. So this is after about like $400 to $600. And so if you're spending $25 a day, $750 per month, this is like towards the tail end of the first month of you running ads. And so this is, like I said, plan C, and what we do for our clients that are the trickiest to get results for. But this will literally, if you're a marketing agency owner, this could save you from losing a bunch of clients. If you're a real estate agent, this could save you from giving up on Facebook ads and thinking that they don't work entirely. It could just be the location that you're advertising to. And this is something, if you're a marketing agency, this is something that you should be screening for with all of the clients that you work with. You can't work with any real estate agents that have very strict criteria with their head office in terms of the locations that we're allowed to advertise to, because we need to be nimble with our targeting geographically. If you're an individual agent and you're working with a Ray White, a Harcourts, an LJ Hooker, anything like that is being really strict around the markets you're able to advertise in. Long story short, they're in the Stone Age and they aren't up with the times of how the real estate industry works now. And that really made a lot more sense back in the day, when the only option that you had to advertise was manual prospecting, where you had to physically show up in those locations and have physical billboards, letterbox drops, do door knocks. But now we can do marketing efforts completely detached from our physical capability of prospecting in that area, and there's no reason that you shouldn't have more flexibility around the locations that you can advertise to. And that's something that you should genuinely draw a line. Like, if I was a real estate professional, I would not tolerate that at all, because it doesn't do anyone any favors you not being able to advertise and have freedom around that. Cool. So we see all the time cost per lead differ by 100 to 300% by simply targeting neighboring suburbs. I just showed an example of that. Another thing that you can test is, instead of calling out 3 small suburbs / markets in a campaign, is to call out a wider general location. So maybe on the Gold Coast here, say I'm based in Palm Beach right now. Let's say you're a real estate agent in this area. You might call out Palm Beach, you might call out Burleigh Heads, you might call out Burleigh Waters, you might call out Eleanor. Those are 3 to 4 very specific suburbs. If those campaigns weren't working, it might be simply because the audience that we're targeting is just way too small. And sometimes Facebook doesn't like that. The larger the audience size that you give Facebook, generally the more data, the more people it's going to have to test in that audience, the easier it's going to be to get the lead cost down. And so if we can instead not just target an individual suburb, but we're targeting a radius that includes all those suburbs, and then in our ad, instead of calling out one suburb at a time, we're calling out the general area, sometimes that can perform a lot better. So instead of calling out individually Palm Beach, Burleigh Waters, Eleanor, we'd call out Gold Coast homeowners. Instead of, say, if we're a bit further south, my hometown is Kingscliff. If you're a real estate professional in that area, instead of calling out Kingscliff, Casuarina, Cabarita, Tweed Heads, or Benora, you'd call out Tweed Coast homeowners. Instead of calling out like Parramatta, Maze Hill, whatever in Sydney, you could call out Western Sydney homeowners. You get the gist. Cool. Phase 4, this is essentially where any campaign is going to end up. If your campaign's performing well, they're eventually going to start dying off. This is called ad fatigue, and this will happen to everyone's campaigns. Advertising in the local business, lead gen space is very different to e-commerce advertising, where in the e-commerce space, whenever you're running campaigns, we're always targeting entire countries, essentially, or multiple countries and audiences of millions and millions of people. Whereas with real estate ads, we are purposefully only targeting very defined geographic locations, because we can only physically service people in those locations. Therefore, because we're targeting a lot less people, our campaigns experience ad fatigue a lot more quickly, because it's takes a lot less time for us to completely exhaust our audience. If you're an e-commerce company and you've got an audience size of 2 million people that you're targeting, you have to spend the equivalent of reaching 2 million people before you experience the same level of ad fatigue as you would in real estate, where maybe our audience size is 60,000 people. Usual cost per impressions are around, say, 25. Let's just have a look right here what our CPMs are. Let's pull this up. So our CPM, which is cost per impression, which is how much does it cost us for us to reach 1,000 people, is only $18 for this client, which is actually insanely good. So let's say you had an audience size of, let's just see what the audience size is of one of these suburbs. it's only 5,300 to 62,000. So it's only going to cost 6.3 times 18. It only costs $113 for every single person in that audience to have seen the ad once. Okay, so that's very different than having to spend, say you're trying to reach 2 million people, divided by 1,000 is 2,000 times 18. You have to spend $36,000 to have the same level of ad fatigue within the e-commerce space. And so all I'm getting at is that this is why it's so important to understand how to optimize these campaigns, because it's inevitable that you're going to have to do so. Step one for beating ad fatigue is breathing life back into your already winning creatives. For example, changing the colors or the background image of your best performing ad. Keep making variations to winning ads until they're obviously fatigued. So essentially, when you first run your campaigns for the first month and a half, you'll find a point of equilibrium where it's obvious that you've optimized the campaigns to an ideal cost per lead. If you first launched the campaigns and you were getting a $38 cost per lead, you did your optimization, you got it down to an $18 cost per lead, then you know that $18 is a good benchmark of the potential of where campaigns can perform when they're performing really, really well. Once they start creeping significantly beyond that, then you start doing making these changes, making variations to the winning ads. And an example of what we would do, like I mentioned before, is, let's say the winning creative was this ad right here. Come on. Let's say the winning variation was this ad right here. The first thing that we would do is we'd make like 5 different versions where it's the exact same overlay, but just different images in the background. That's it. So just like simple, slight adjustments. Yeah. Once we've squared the most out of your winning ads, then look at your second best and do the same. So let's say our second best performing creative was this map with the phone creative. Then we change maybe the style of the icons on here, or we change the colors to a different primary branding color for the client, or we change the font significantly, or we change, the phone to be a different, version of the iPhone, or we might change the layout. Just change something about that format of the creative, but keeping the essence of what the original creative was like, because there was something about that obviously performed well, and so we just want to make an adjustment, so that's a slight variation of that. Once you've done that, then start testing completely new creatives that you haven't tested before in a separate campaign. So after we've exhausted everything, then we need to, and this will happen at different stages for different people in different markets, but once you've exhausted all of that, then you just need to start completely innovating. And so the way that you innovate is by knowing the winning ingredients to these creatives. And so as we've talked about in this training, the winning ingredients are, number one, the majority of campaigns that you're going to run to generate leads consistently are going to be some version of an appraisal inquiry campaign. In the previous training, I've given you 6 high-performing winning creatives that most of Australia and a lot of New Zealand has started to copy now. And so you've got some examples of what types of winning creatives work. And so what you need to do to innovate is just make different versions of those styles of creatives within the home valuation ad category. In follow-up videos that I'm going to be making, I'm going to be diving more into the strategy of how to create these creatives from scratch, which is one thing that we've done, which has given us a big competitive advantage in the space. But that is pretty much everything I wanted to cover in this video. So now you know how to optimize these campaigns for the long term, how to troubleshoot for lead quality and lead cost. You know exactly how to take advantage of the lead spectrum and know who you should be advertising towards. You know how to have the right expectations going into running these campaigns, and how many people you should expect to convert based on the long-term sales cycle of the real estate industry. And you understand the correlation between lead quality and how much friction has been applied to the lead conversion process. All right, that's all for this one. Hope you got some value. See you in the next one. Please subscribe as well if you are watching this at the end of the video right now. Please subscribe and give a like for the video. Helps out with the algorithm. Typical YouTuber call to actions, but it actually helps me out. Thank you very much. Peace.